You like this? Rachel, do you want to check behind your plinth? Oh, yeah. In your own time, love.
Is this the trick?
It's a bottle of strong cider and 20 Regals.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
Harry, you're a wizard.
I'm a what?
A wizard, Harry.
I'm a wizard?
Yes, Harry, you're a wizard.
But I'm just Harry.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brickmaker channel. Today I have a very different video for all of you. Yes, it is our regularly scheduled programming of a challenge run, but instead of a follow-up video, today I will be doing it in a Witcher video. Specifically The Witcher 3. For anyone out there who has never played The Witcher 3, it is by far one of my most favourite games. And the actual origins of the name of this channel, the Brickmaker, a character from The Witcher 1.
Brickmaker's village. Bup. Greetings. Greeting, my lord, greeting. What's with you? Not now, but when I six a brick fell on me head.
Now this video is going to be focused on Geralt, obviously, who is the main character. And the challenge will be, instead of being able to use my entire arsenal of weapons, I will be restricted to only using the signs. For anyone who isn't aware, signs constitute things like Ard, Igni, Gwen, Eredin, and Axii. Or to put it even simpler, I will only be allowed to use magic. This means using things like my fists or my swords will be strictly prohibited. There is however some sections of this game where I do not play as Geralt, and for those I have got no ability to use anything other than the sword, mainly the Ciri missions, so for me I won't be counting them. This is also the first video back on this channel where I have remonetized it, meaning that things like the channel memberships are available again, and the ads will be back onto the videos. Now I've only put ads back on certain videos. I've tried to leave them off of, a lot of the kind of older videos, but just so going forward, just so we're all aware, the ads will be back. So now I think it's a pretty good time for me to remind you guys to please subscribe, like this video, because for some reason that's the only way YouTube decides which videos are good or not. And if you're looking to support the channel even further, the memberships are unbelievably helpful. I unfortunately cannot offer you really much in extra content. They are strictly there just if you want to support me, and I will be eternally grateful for that type of support. But I do want to make it clear right now, you do not have to support the channel through things like memberships. It's only a little bit of an added bonus. I will still go through all the comments, reply to the ones when I have time. Now I suppose it is a little bit more time to give a little bit more setup to this video. Now due to it being restricted to just signs, I will attempt at most times to try and give you guys an idea of what the perks I'm using, the kind of armor I'm using as well. But looking back at how the video actually came out, I do notice that there is quite a lot of cutscenes put in. This is mainly just for anyone who hasn't played this game before to know what the story is. If this video does quite well, in the future I'll be trying to restrict as much cutscenes just so there's more combat involved. But I will say this is my first time attempting this type of video, so please be gentle, please be nice. And due to a change in setup that I've been going through, you may hear a cat meow in the background just randomly. Well, I think this intro is pretty long in itself, so we will finally ask the question, can you beat The Witcher 3 while only using signs? This video starts very differently from a Fallout challenge run. We wake up in the middle of the field on the hunt. Hunting for what, you might ask? A woman. Yes, for those who don't know, we are currently hunting down our ex-girlfriend who's suffering from amnesia just like us. And we are immediately thrown into a battle where our signs are very much not doing a lot of heavy lifting here. In fact, I would call it downright slow. Lucky for us, our father slash trainer slash, torturer, Vizima is by our side and able to give us a nice little hand. I don't know what Geralt's doing trying to use his sword to attack this Griffin, but that is not what we're supposed to be doing right now. And for saving the guy, he points us towards our first town. We're in White Orchard. As we said before, we're looking for Yennefer of Vengerberg, as if you played The Witcher 2, you'll know that at the end of that game we got our memory back and we remember that she is more or less our longtime girlfriend. We have a brief chat with God, and send our merry way right into the middle of town. In the Witcher world, Witchers are, well, we're looked upon very poorly, and there's some people trying to give us a problem. Unfortunately for this fight, we are unable to use any signs, so there's only one thing to do in a situation like this, and that is to hightail it straight out of there like a coward. I promise you guys, if I was able to set you on fire, I would, but the game don't let me, so we have to run off. We encounter our first place of power, which gives us a nice boost to our sign abilities, but also gives us a point as well. And the first skill anybody should be using for a sign build should be the Griffin School Techniques, as it boosts all of my sign abilities while I'm wearing medium armour. That is going to be more or less indispensable for it, and probably I'll never take that perk off this entire run. It's also important that I hit every place of power that I can so I can boost my skills as early as possible. If you guys aren't aware, to do a sign build, you're pretty much going to be putting everything into the sign skill tree and trying to get yourself as much Griffin armour as possible. Ironically enough, that's what this whole entire initial quest is about. Figuring out this Griffin, taking out the contract on him so we can then build ourselves up to become a Griffin Witcher ourselves. First thing we get sent off to do is to find his hunter so he can let us know where the nest is, and we take a nice little bit of time off to go and set some dogs on fire. After literally just setting dogs on fire, we get pointed in the correct direction to find the Griffin nest. Turns out a bunch of the Nilfgaardians tried to attack one of them while it was sleeping, and that's why the other one is now pissed off and attacking random villagers. We give it a good old examination, head back and meet, well, just the peachiest person in the entire game. She leads us over to this lake where we're going to pick up some buckthorn, which we're going to use as a bit of a trap and a lure to get the Griffin to, well, come to us instead of us trying to find him. We let Papa Vizima in on the plan, and set it up in a random field stuffed inside a fake sheep. With that, it's just a case of waiting our sweet time and we meet our very first boss of this game, the Royal Griffin. Now I must admit I was a little bit worried about this fight because the first time I played this with everything at my disposal I thought this was actually pretty difficult. But this time only focusing on using signs like Ignite actually turned out to be quite handy. I always thought if you wanted to get the Griffin onto the ground you would have to always shoot a crossbow at him, but actually the Ignite sign does just as good a job. And in fact it probably does an even better job because as you wait for it to swoop down and you hit it with the Ignite, it actually does a good amount of damage. Well, as long as you get the timing right. And even if you don't, once it attacks you, it can land so you can hit it with as much as you want. And Ignite obviously being one of the strongest signs at this current moment because it gets that burn damage as well, meaning that we can do constant damage throughout the fight. With that, we're able to claim its head and get it right back to the Nilfgaardians because they're going to let us know exactly where Yennefer's hiding out. With it safely secured and probably the only monster head we'll get throughout this playthrough, we can head back, get our coin from the Nilfgaard, and head back over to the White Orchard, well, bar. Unfortunately for us though, they start causing a ruckus. So I do what any normal person does and just start setting everyone on fire inside of a wood house. However, well, what are you doing? What are you doing, Geralt? I would just say right now, no, cutscenes do not count. God damn it, how could this get any worse? The only thing that could make it worse now is if... Oh, wow. Wow. Who's this? Well, it turns out doing all that work for that Griffin contract was a damn waste of time because Yennefer found us, and she has unbelievable information. The Wild Hunt, the name of the game, has come looking for Ciri, our adopted daughter, Yennefer and Geralt. With this bombshell I decide to have a bath, get myself naked, and also come and meet Emir. Well, voiced by Charles Dance and actually the real father of Ciri. I suppose now is a good time to just double check everyone's aware of what the storyline is. We are currently looking for Ciri, our adopted daughter. She went missing a couple years ago on her own little path. Her father is the Emperor of Nilfgaard, the army that's invading this part of the continent. Yennefer has been working with him, we get no information and get sent right to Velen to see if we can find any more information on it. Yeah, that's a lot of information to take in at once. But all you got to know is that I'm only using my signs, and that's the real challenge run. I'll try and let in a lot of the story while I can in the appropriate places. But what you got to know now is we went to an inn, and now we're in this little village which was attacked by the Wild Hunt to get some more information. We calm this poor peasant down, and well, actually, to be honest, the fact that he wasn't calm is totally understandable as he retells the story of what happened to his village. Eredin himself, the king of the Wild Hunt, has arrived, and he is looking for Ciri as well. And while looking for him, they were unable to look in this guy's boots to get more information. What we now need to do is head straight over to Crow's Perch, which is more or less the central leading, human settlement for all Velen. Apparently here is where Ciri was last spotted. So we're going to come up here and have a nice little conversation ourselves. The Baron is also in league with Nilfgaard, the kind of conquering army of this area, and he kind of sets as the de facto leader of this area. He's a pretty cool character, but a pretty shitty guy, so let's get into a conversation with him and learn as much as we can. He does give us a nice little taste of, a little bit of Ciri's story. And we do learn that indeed she has returned to the continent and she has been spotted in Velen. And it's here where we play our first Ciri mission, which I'll tell you guys right now, it does not count. Ciri has no ability to use any sort of signs, she is not a witcher. Even at this point she can do nothing other than use her sword, so we'll just be skipping through the majority of the Ciri missions as to me they do not count because it's not Geralt. The Bloody Baron does however let us know that she was at Crow's Perch and we're just a little bit behind her at this current time. No, nothing comes for free in this place, so if I want to gather any more information about Ciri, I've got to start doing some hunting around the Baron's house, as his wife and daughter have ran away from him. The very first place I get sent off to is to meet a guy called the Pentler, something like that. And I don't have enough put into Axie yet to be able to get these guys to leave me alone, who are also trying to hurt him, so I gotta go around and set all these boys on fire. That is a lot of this early game, it's just using Igni. I must admit the gameplay itself is a little bit repetitive at this point, but I eventually do save the Peller, and he lets me know that if I want even more information, I gotta go goddamn save his goat. A lot of this game is hunting down information and then being told that you gotta help this guy, then help that guy, then help him, then help his sister, help his gran, help his dog, help his dog's cat, help his dog's hamster, and then make sure you can find his goldfish who ran away, and then you'll get a tiny bit of information. I'm so frustrated by this is that I decide to set a random bear on fire. Eventually I do get the goat all the way back to the Peller, the Tenor, the whatever he is, the goddamn Seinfeld, whatever he is, and I can head back and see that, oh no, did my Igni get out of control? Why is the Baron's house on fire? No, unfortunately what's been happening here is the Baron has went into a drunken rage and everything's been set alight. And to be honest, asking me to help could only make things worse because I only seem to have fingery fiery hands. But I do attempt in my magic magey way to try and help out and save, not the man, mainly the horses. The horses didn't deserve to get set on fire, so we'll make sure they get out alive. We run into the Baron, and unfortunately we also run into pretty much the end of this video. I mean, you know it's not the end of the video, you've seen the time down below. But this is unfortunately another one of those situations where no matter what I do, I cannot use any sort of signs, any sort of thing that can stop this battle. I tried running, I tried everything. Unfortunately, the only way to get past this point in the story is to beat the Baron senseless. So at this current stage, if you believe that the run has already failed, fair enough. I suppose a wizard or a mage could use its fists, but I totally understand, and no, I won't be ending the video here. Let's keep moving it on anyway to see how far we can get, but we'll chalk this up to one position where the run was not possible to continue. With all that nonsense out of the way, we have got to go to one of my least favourite missions in this whole goddamn game, and so at this point we've learned a bit more about the Baron's story. He's a drunk, he sets stuff on fire, and his wife and daughter ran away because he keeps beating the crap out of his wife. It turns out that his wife unfortunately lost their child, and we are currently going to try and get that child's spirit to rest. Yeah, if you're watching this video because you like the Fallout runs, yeah, it's the Witcher 3 story gets a little bit deep and heavy at certain points. I do promise to try and keep out all of the deep parts of the storyline. Don't want to spoil it, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable either, so yeah, all you got to know is that we're doing the right thing and we're going to try and save this this child, pretty much. However, in the meantime though, we've got to protect him from all the different wraiths floating around this whole castle. And well, although it might look like a bit like a PowerPoint right now, the Ignis sign is still not doing a particularly large amount of damage, especially the ghosts, so I'm still mainly just running and hopping, setting things on fire, running back, shooting things on fire again. With all the wraiths finished though, we can now finish off this quest and set the soul to rest, with a nice special ritual that will help us find the Baron's wife and the Baron's daughter. With the ritual complete, we can now summon the spirit back and it will lead us to where we need to go. Definitely my favourite way of finishing this quest, definitely the more moral and nicer way of doing it. You can just fight and defeat it for its blood, but I'd rather not do that. We are eventually led to the wife of the Baron's brother, or cousin, or I'm actually not sure exactly who this person is, but they are related to the Baron's wife. And they let us know that they were more or less trying to escape until something scary jumped out of the woods and took the Baron's wife away. But the daughter did however escape to a place called Oxenford. We meet up with the Baron in his little garden, and for all of our hard work we get a middle finger. But with that middle finger we also do learn a little bit more about Ciri's quest and what's been going on. During her time staying with the Baron, she did get herself involved in a nice little race, started getting to become quite friendly with all the men around here, and actually ends up probably being one of her best memories throughout this game. I mean, you'll see later on just how Ciri's story keeps developing, but at this point her time with the Baron is pretty nice. So we can respect the Baron for that, knowing that he actually did treat Ciri pretty well and she was having a good time. So for that we will actually pop over and check on his daughter and make sure she's safe, as she's in Oxenford. She wants absolutely nothing to do with her father anymore. And with more or less all of the Baron's quest done for now, we are now going to go meet a witch who is living out in the middle of nowhere. It does however turn out that we know this witch. Her name is Keira Metz. She is a character that you wouldn't have met in any of the previous games, she's just a character from the books. And it turns out that she had also heard about an elven mage in the area, but nothing about Ciri, so we go off to investigate with her. It does lead us to these old elven ruins. We start to formulate our plan, and we immediately realise that we're encountering the hunt again. This is actually the first time we are physically seeing the hunt, other than our ride into Vizima. For most characters in this game it's still a myth, but for Geralt he is fully aware of what's going on, as in the last game it was revealed that he actually rode with the hunt. But if you want to learn more about that, then you should go back and, well, play through those games as well. I don't want to spoil too much for you. I take on a bunch of drowners, but Keira gets attacked by rats, so I've got to come in, swoop in and save the day with my fiery touch. Good thing about using Igni all the time is that it can actually ignite a lot of the random things in the environment. And we eventually reach one of these random little, I don't know, hologram TV projection things, telling us more about the elven mage and actually the fact that they were in contact with Ciri, because we find a lot of clues that only she would be aware of. And luckily, so would Geralt, as they know each other extremely well. The deeper we go into this cave, we encounter a golem, which actually acts as kind of like a mini boss fight for this stage. The later you get on into the game, golems aren't as tough, but for this point it's actually a pretty difficult opponent, and this golem seems to be pretty resistant to the majority of my signs. Now unfortunately I don't have a lot of the skill tree to put into the other signs that will even cause damage with them, so for now it's still only Igni that seems to be doing any sort of hurting on them. Luckily for me, Keira Metz seems to be doing a hell of a lot of heavy lifting herself. We eventually whittle the golem down and take him out. Well, Keira Metz takes him out, but I'm here as well, playing support. We keep passing through and finding different tunnels and all these different things, and luckily only ever using magic. We eventually run right back into the rest of the wild hunt. This right here is what they call their navigator, the guy who can more or less teleport them to wherever they want to go, and has the power to call on global warming. I'm not even kidding, the reason the wild hunt want to find Ciri is because they believe they can use her power to stop the White Frost. The White Frost is legitimately a global warming catastrophe that goes from universe to universe, putting everything into a big white frost. I suppose is the easiest way of saying it. So yeah, if you were to describe this game in a certain way, the Wild Hunt kind of play the role of Al Gore. I know, Keira, I know. Just don't faint on me right now. And we're kind of the, I don't know, we believe in the White Frost ourselves, but we're also trying to stop big old Al Gore, so I don't know, am I the bad guy? Am I the good guy? I mean, that guy's wearing a skull, he's definitely the bad guy. This right here is a member of the hunt that we're finally going to fight one-on-one. Well, two-on-one, because what's the point? Did he just pull out a sword? Good, Geralt, that's what I like to see. Pull out the imaginary sword, there's no places for swords here. I suppose the game just would always assume that you have a sword at this stage, because I dropped one of the swords just for carry weight, and I was never going to use it. The only other sword on my back helps with sign intensity. So yeah, if you actually just end up dropping all your swords and you have an animation or a cutscene where he needs to pull a sword out, he will just pull out absolutely nothing. Which is, I don't know, pretty funny to me. What's not funny though is this member of the hunt, Nifro. Now in terms of fighting him, he's not too bad. He actually goes down pretty quick with most of the Igni signs. The issue is though that he's one of those classic video game boss fights where he has 3 stages. You knock his health down about a third, he then re-health back up and fights you again at full. You knock his health down by about 60%, he does the same thing, goes back into a corner, gets all his health back, and then you gotta fight him a third time. Oh, very Conker's Bad Fur Day. Very, very 2001 video game mechanics here. But all the cheese in the world ain't gonna stop Nifro from getting trapped into a corner and me beginning to spam over and over all my different overpowered stunning spells. And with that, I'm able to loot his corpse and learn, well, nothing. It's another dead end. I'm just doing 100 things and just getting nothing, but I do end up getting some nice little medallion, so I can now start passing through different areas. I make sure to grab the place of power down here because I want you to take a moment to go through all of my stats so far. At this point in the game, as you believe, I'm putting all of my points more or less right into Igni to make it as strong as possible. But the real goal is to get my way all the way down to the last Ard sign and get Shockwave so I can start doing damage with that as well. I also end up picking up Firestorm, which is great for fighting one-on-one with huge enemies as it has a constant stream of fire that does constant damage and constant burn effect, and it's really really nice. The last lead that we've got to follow is the Trail of Treats. A pretty horrible, disgusting place where parents who don't want their kids anymore send them down promising them, well, free candy. And what they end up finding is this horrible little village in the middle of the bog. Yeah, the early parts of this game just have horrible, nasty things that happen. Who am I kidding? Happens throughout the whole goddamn game. What we learn is that this grandma is looking after all these kids. These kids spotted Ciri earlier, and the person who saw her the closest was this little guy called Johnny, who isn't a kid. He's something called a godling that looks like a kid, and he wants us, before we can get any information out of him, to help him, because of course he does. That's all this game is. However, we really did have to complete this one because what we got back for him was his voice, so he can now finally start talking to us. He's able to convince the grandma to help us out, and she takes us over to some tapestry, some picture on a wall to talk. And the picture on the wall sends us to this other village to then send us to go fight a tree. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really do think that Fallout as a series just has a much more solid and much more makes sense storyline. But you don't play The Witcher so you can make sense of it. You play The Witcher for the damn good gameplay, the great story even though it is a bit fucking nuts sometimes, and just generally might be one of my most favourite games ever. outside of this tree we battled down a werewolf, so it wasn't too hard actually in the end. And when we enter into this tree, we find I don't even know what to describe it as. Some big prickly fruit fucker that can talk. And it says that the evil tapestry is going to eat all the children, unless we help. But, I mean, would you believe the crazy tree that sends magic bugs to fight you? Also at this point, the reason we've even been sent to fight this tree is because tons of random innocent villagers just keep going missing around the tree. So we do the only thing that's appropriate for our magic fiery fingers, and that is to set every single thing we can find on fire. And actually a pretty easy battle, sometimes quite difficult. I think I usually go into it with a sword, but using just Ignite at this point was really, well, simple to be honest. With that, the leader of that small town we went to initially thanks us. Thanks us by cutting off his own ear and giving it to us. We then return back to that village where the big tapestry was sitting, and we give the ear to a rock. And the tapestry gives us hunting boots and hunting gauntlets. And we then learn that the tapestry is actually made up of these 3 horrible beasts, and they've actually captured the Baron's wife. Not just that, well, they tried to eat Ciri as well. And on top of that as well, all the children that were roaming around the village earlier, they've already eaten, so the tree wasn't lying. Yeah, so we do another Ciri section where we just run away. And it turns out those 3 ugly women are also working with the Wild Hunt. I mean, talk about just an explosion of information you have to try and understand all at once. And how does this very serious conversation end? Well, with them slapping their ass and laughing and flying away into dust. I mean, I don't even know what to do now except go tell my best friend the Baron about it. I tell him that his wife is trapped there. He lets us know that him and Ciri fought a massive basilisk, and because of this fight, Ciri used her power, and that's how the Wild Hunt found her again. The Baron nearly died to this basilisk, but Ciri, again like I said before, saved him using her powers. And in exchange gave him a horse, and she made off for a place called Novigrad. And that's where we're going to be going next, off to Novigrad. But in the meantime, we are disturbed. Just this little monster just barged through the door, just out of goddamn nowhere. I mean, what the hell is going on in this goddamn game? I might not be really aware, but the one thing I know now is that Ciri went to Novigrad, so that's where I'm going to go next. I mean, I have the option to help the Baron retrieve his wife, but ain't nobody got time for that. You enter Novigrad for the very first time, and you are greeted by 2 mages just being set on fire in the middle of the square. We meet Keira Metz, who is, well, one of the leaders for the Church of the Eternal Fire, and a big bad guy who hates anything that's magical, which is, you know, not good for us, and not good for our potential friend Triss Marigold, who we came to Novigrad to hopefully meet, knowing if she had anything to know about what Ciri was up to. However, Triss is a witch herself, and, well, with the way that this goddamn city is going, if she's not been set on fire, she's definitely in hiding. So we head straight over to her shop, where Keira Metz is for some reason waiting for us. He lets us know that, well, witchers aren't on the menu for him yet, but once we are, he's going to come hunting us. Little does he know, I'm actually playing as a mage this playthrough, so hahaha, got that trick right under his nose. And we learn from Triss Marigold's diary that she's probably in a league with a guy called the King of Beggars, so we gotta find a way to get into his secret hideout. Luckily we've got that sweet talking silver hair, so we're able to talk our way in and get right in and find Triss here. Thank God. Thank God she's safe because, well, witches are burning at the stake literally 2 feet away from us, so it is somewhat relieving. For anyone who doesn't know, Triss Marigold is more or less, well, Geralt's love interest in the games while Yennefer is missing. It's a character that we care about and a character that we want to help, so the first time we meet her, we help her out with a little problem that she's having. She's using her magic to clear factories for some simple money. Unfortunately for us though, we are, well, somewhat betrayed because, well, what are we going to do? Head to the local police and say that we were robbed trying to do witch business. So we set all these poor guys on fire, head back out and beat the fat man within an inch of his life. Triss lets us know that she never met Ciri, but points in the direction of a dreamwalker, or whatever it is. The person on the bed. But unfortunately, she is being tortured by a little girl. Because nothing is so simple in this game. However, we do meet the little girl and it turns out it's just another harmless godling. We wake up the sleeping lady, who is going to help us visit into our dreams and figure out what happened to Ciri in the middle of Novigrad, because she has that kind of power. We learn that Ciri, played by the little bird, has been meeting with Dandelion, another one of Geralt's good friends. With that, we are now hot on the trail. The next person we gotta find is Dandelion. Apparently he owns a bar in the middle of town, where we find Zoltan Chive, another one of Geralt's damn good friends, and a good friend of Dandelion as well. So it seems that we're finally making some progress with this investigation. We do, however, get ourselves into another fist fight where we can't use any of our powers. This is getting a little bit tiresome. However, I do find a somewhat workaround. If you run up the staircases, for some reason you get this random spot where we can start using our signs again, allowing me to throw on Ard, throw on all these different shields and be able to do a little bit of damage. With that, we clear out all these beggars that have been living in this bar, and get ourselves hot onto Dandelion's trail because, of course, he's also goddamn missing. The only person that seems to be where they're supposed to be is goddamn Zoltan, and that's why we love him. In our investigation, we are led all around Novigrad, meeting up with random women that, well, Dandelion has somewhat had a relationship with. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dandelion is a bit of the playboy of the entire series. We help this woman out by taking out a bunch of thugs trying to push her for, well, protection money, and we let them know that we're going to protect her ourselves. With the last poor bandit set on fire, she tells us nothing. We then meet up with this elf, who tells us nothing. We then go over to this very fancy house at the top of Novigrad, and we meet up with, well, a couple characters that we know from previous games, and they tell us something. They let us know that there is a maid that works for them, that is currently at a race, that may have something a little bit closer to know about where Dandelion could be. Unfortunately though, she tells us, well, you guessed it, nothing. We then head over to a random little school where we meet a school teacher who wants to let us give the kids a speech about being a witcher, and she then just tells us nothing. The last spot we've got to head to is this big Nilfgaardian real estate area, where some fancy little sisters and princesses are lording about, who might actually have something to tell us. However, to get anywhere close to them, I have to pretend to be their new sword instructor. I mean, this was a bad time for them to try and hire us as a sword instructor because I am currently unable to use my sword. So I let this woman just beat the living holy hell out of me. And luckily, in this part of the quest, that's actually enough just to let us through. We do a bit more talking, I let her beat the absolute living crap out of me again. And luckily for me, I actually am unable to fail this quest by getting taken out. So I'm finally able to get to the end and get some actual information about Dandelion. We learned something about his sister who's in town, a blonde-haired girl similar to Ciri. But it actually isn't Ciri who everyone thinks he's been meeting with, and Zoltan actually is aware of who it is. It's this woman called Priscilla, who plays a lute. At least I think it's a lute, I have no idea about old-timey musical instruments. She tells us about some treasure Dandelion and Ciri are trying to steal, held by a guy called Siggy Reuven. We take all of our clothes off and put on a towel and go meet with him. Dun dun dun! It turns out it's Dijkstra. A book character. An amazing character, one of my favourite from this entire game. However, before we can get talking with him and his associates, we get attacked again. And luckily we don't actually even have weapons for this point, so me throwing fire around is actually really helpful. I mean, anybody in this bathhouse who was soaking wet will be burnt to a crisp now and dry as a bone, so all of your guys, you're goddamn welcome. It's here where we learn a little bit more about the underground gang situation in Novigrad, but I just don't really have time to learn about this, so instead I put my clothes on and talk to Siggy a bit more. and let Dijkstra let us know what's been going on. Yes, it turns out that he has a vault underground that was recently robbed, so we are certainly on track to figure out what Ciri was doing in Novigrad. He takes us down here, and we get to meet the best character in the game. That right there is Bart, and Bart is just, oh god, who doesn't love Bart? When you meet Bart, who doesn't love him?
Then boom! Chorfoot go!
Translating into common, someone fucking made off with nearly 20 tons of my gold and all the lighter stuff, and you will help me get it back.
And I also just love Dijkstra. Genuinely just, fantastic. Big fan of Dijkstra. Love his sarcasm, love Bart, love everything about these characters. And they send me straight into where the bomb was blown up so I can go set fire to more things. So here's how it's going right now in our investigation. We know that Dandelion and Ciri were trying to steal Dijkstra's gold. We don't know why, but we know they tried to steal it. We've now been sent by Dijkstra to investigate who stole the gold. But we know who stole the gold, but we need to help him think that we don't know who stole the gold, so we can try and convince him that we're trying to figure out who stole the gold, so he'll tell us where Dandelion is. Because no matter what you want to say about Dijkstra, he has tons of information all about this town here. So we need to figure out exactly what he knows, but without him knowing what we know.
Speaking of which, and pardon my boast there was, have you found out who fucking nicked my gold?
God, so menacing this man, isn't he just? However, luckily for us, we are able to figure out something a bit more. We learned that the person who stole the gold from Dandelion and Ciri was actually Caleb Menga, every mage's best friend. So Triss divides the plan so that to get herself captured, Geralt hands her in so we can get some information off of Menga personally about where Dandelion is. Luckily for us, so for some reason Menga still somewhat trusts us, so we're able to get in there and discuss, well, more or less just where Dandelion is. We didn't have time to learn anything more about his gold, we just learned that he does have Dijkstra's gold somewhere, and before we get that information though, Triss decides that, well, it's about time for Menga to go. Totally understandable, totally respectable, absolutely no problem with that. But with that, we actually do get ourselves into a nice new level. Level 11. And what that means for us is that we can actually go down and hunt our very first set of Griffin armour. More or less the perfect armour if you want to do a sign build. Now for anyone who isn't aware, all the Witchers have different schools, and all those different schools go into different things. The School of the Wolf, where Geralt's from, that's a balanced one. School of the Bear, heavy duty. School of the Griffin, magic. And that's what we're going to be looking for right now. Now to get these things, you've got to find the diagrams first, which usually involve you going into a deep cave, a different type of dungeon, and then finding out where it has been located. Now to find these things more naturally in game, you would usually come across a torn page letter or even buy it from a vendor, which would then activate the quest to go hunt down these armours. However for me, I've played The Witcher free enough that I know exactly where all the initial pieces are, so I head straight into this dark random cave at Dragon Slayer's Grotto, and although there seems to be some old Ikimara vampire down here just getting in the way, I eventually set his toes on fire so much that I'm able to get past him and find all the diagrams for the armour, the trousers, the gloves and the boots. That's usually how you find these things. It's all the armour in one spot, and then you've got the sword, steel and silver located somewhere else. Now even though we're not going to be using the swords, it just wouldn't feel right not to have the complete set at all times. Now I know that if you have the Grandmaster set, having all 6 pieces does give you a bonus. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get the Grandmaster level in this playthrough. But the swords do give a little bit of sign bonus, and plus just, you know, if you're in for a penny, in for a pound, if you're going to walk on ice you might as well dance. Yeah, I want all 6, and plus it gives you guys a chance to see where they're all hidden as well anyway. So with the armour already in my back pocket, the next thing I find is a note from Witcher George, which is also next to this silver sword. And for anyone who isn't aware, Witcher George is actually a YouTuber out there that makes lots of very good Witcher content. I'd recommend checking him out. I watch a lot of his videos and I really enjoy them. The last piece we're looking for is over here by a place of power. A random ruined castle at the end of the goddamn world, covered in drowners that I can't attack because they're all sitting in water. Guarded by a wyvern. I mean, yeah. Everything else seems so simple. Why is this one guarded by a massive dragon-like thing? And luckily for us, anything that seems to touch our fire fingers hits the deck pretty quick. So now it's not a case of me being trapped in this castle with the wyvern, it's now a case of the wyvern being trapped in this castle with me. We do grab the final piece of the Griffin school gear, at least for the very basic one, and yeah, there's no way that you're getting away with that, eh? No, we'll make sure that you get your just desserts. Like I said, I came here looking for a bit of paper, you attacked me, dude, so yeah, you're gonna have to suffer the fiery consequences of my burning touch. With that, I believe it's as good a time as ever to have a quick little look at all of our stats. How are we doing? More or less everything is going into Ard and Igni until we can get Shockwave. And no better place to go than to Fergus to get all of our nice new shiny armour built. Luckily for us, we do have the majority of the ingredients on us. We've got the boots, the armour, the trousers, and the gauntlets done rather quickly. However, it's not just as simple as going to one guy, we also got to head over to a blacksmith to get our swords built. The silver sword and the steel sword built pretty damn fast, and there we go, our first full set of Griffin armour. Not so much a fan of the green tint on it, but the increased level this is going to give us to all of our signs is well worth the ugly decor. We also make sure we add in any glyphs and signs to our swords and to our armour to boost it even more. And as you can see, we are doing a lot more damage with every single hit. 100% very much necessary. If you're ever going to get a sign build, 100% go and get all the Griffin armour. With our new shiny suit on, we can then continue on with our main story, which involves us going to destroy an entire casino. Hey! Because our current quest is now hunting down Whoreson Junior, who is one of the main bosses who attacked us in the bathhouse earlier. As it turned out, Ciri and Dandelion were actually stealing all of that gold for Whoreson, not for Caleb. Caleb just ended up stealing it. But now that Ciri and Dandelion have went missing, he's going to be the next person who's going to let us know exactly how, what and went down. What we know right now though is that Dandelion is in a prison and someone called Dudu came in to help. Dudu being an old friend of Geralt's as well from the books. Again, all very confusing. All you got to know right now is Whoreson Junior is the man we got to find. And the only way to find him is to set fire to every single employee he has working in this random establishment. None of these people asked for this, but they got in my way, so I set them on fire. We run into this guy who knows some pretty big information about Whoreson, that he's been working with the Redanians. We let Dijkstra know all about it, and he lets us know that one of our old friends is hanging just outside Oxenfurt, a member of the Temerian Special Army. It's Vernon Roach from The Witcher 2. He has some key insight into the Redanian hierarchy, and is able to get us a meeting with an informant. Well, we thought it was an informant, it just turns out to be the bloody king of Redania himself, King Radovid, who from The Witcher 2 to The Witcher 3 has started to descend into total, utter madness.
Dub. A heart pumping with life. I take a pawn, and I hear flesh being rent. I win a piece, and I hear screams from the depths of its bowels. I want to break the chessmen open.
Yeah, this is the guy who is ordering all the witches to be burnt at the stake and getting people like Menga into power. He does however let us know exactly where Whoreson Junior is. Funnily enough, it's the building that has random henchmen of his standing outside of it in Oxenfurt. I bet I never could have figured it out without having to make a deal with the goddamn king of the witch killers. But with that, well, I just start setting fire to them in the street. Not one guard seems to be bothered. I mean, normal police just don't seem to care. Obviously his henchmen care, but yeah, I'm just getting to set these dudes on fire and no one tries to help them. I mean, Radovid really must just want them gone. And with all his different henchmen set on fire, I eventually find Whoreson Junior, who's, well, I'm going to cut it out of the video, but who's been more or less torturing women to death. And it's going to result in him getting his absolute ass handed to him. Because for all we know, this is the last person that Ciri was actually in contact with. He begs for his life because he's a coward. He does let us know what happened, that he did try and get them to steal all the gold from because they needed help with a phylactery, some sort of thing to lift curses, and Whoreson Junior was the only guy that had mages that could have helped them out. It's here where we get a little bit more about her story and we do another Ciri mission, and this time we've got Dandelion in it as well. They are trying to rescue Dudu, who got captured during the heist. Yet another one of Geralt's friends getting tortured. Luckily for us, we spawn in as Ciri and save him without him getting too much damage. Just to his left eye, unfortunately. We learn that Ciri, Dandelion and Dudu escaped Whoreson, but that's not where Geralt's story ends with him. Based on how he treated all the people around him here, and what he could have potentially done to the people that Geralt loves, there's only one way for Whoreson's story to end. Radovid's already asking us for his favour back, but we certainly do not have any time for that nonsense, because we need to go for a nap while we write a play to lure Dudu back out. Only a couple things to do beforehand: get the play out there so Dudu is able to see it, set fire to a group of thugs who are just messing with a little, juggling group. Don't really see why they're doing that, but I set one of them on fire and there we go. They seem fine after that. We're now able to put on our 5-star play. The play goes as well as it could ever do with a man with no emotions playing the lead, but luckily for us, Dudu the Doppler does come out and show himself. He takes on the appearance of Manga and orders Dandelion to be executed straight away. I know that sounds weird, but it's so we can jump over and ambush them and save Dandelion. All these different witch hunters were going to take him to the centre of Oxenfurt, and with Dudu, who can change his body into anyone, he goes as Manga, tells him to release him, we catch him on this road, and we're able to set all of them on fire. Don't you just love it when a plan comes together? With all the guards thoroughly burnt to a crisp, we follow one of them who ran off with Dandelion, and luckily it's just a case of breaking into this little hut and finding him here. Almost feels like a mini boss fight, but this witch hunter has absolutely no chance against Geralt. And with him thoroughly cooked just to a nice medium rare, we are finally able to rescue Dandelion and hopefully get ourselves right back on track to finding out what happened to Ciri. Oh please do not tell me that we get sidetracked one more time. And Dandelion tells us he has no idea where she is, because after they escaped Whoreson Junior, well, she decided just to teleport to God knows where, leaving Dandelion there to get caught. God, I need to take a goddamn break from this storyline because it just feels like we're getting dragged everywhere. If you guys want to know what kind of stats and what perks I'm using, this is what I'm currently using right now. I've been able to pick up the Ard Shockwave and Ard Sweep perks, which now means I can damage people with something more than just Igni. Perfect timing too, because there's only one place left for us to go, and that's off to Skellige. Do you think our trip to Skellige will go fine? Do you think a nice boat trip will be just a relaxing journey for us? Well, of course, goddamn not. We get attacked by pirates on the way. At this point, it's not even shocking anymore. It would actually just be more unbelievable if we just had a pleasant stroll down the pathway and got to our destination without any problems. We fight off all the pirates and get knocked out by the boat itself to wake up on the middle of the shore, luckily still alive. Well, just barely, but we know our swords are still there, so that's positive. We punch this scaver straight in the face. He's never seen a dead man attack him. And make sure that we pick up the 1,000 crowns we paid for that boat journey from the dead captain around the corner. Skellige by far is one of my favourite locations in this game, because no matter what we've been up to, we still somehow just arrive in time for the funeral of the king. Literally, the funeral for the king who just passed away as we arrived. Because wouldn't it just be too goddamn little to ask to have a normal time on Skellige without there currently being a massive vacuum of power that needs filled? And with the king and his mistress set on fire, there's only one thing left to do. And that's to flirt with Yennefer at this funeral. While that's going on, Skellige now has to determine how it's going to find its next ruler. However, for us, that is generally of absolute no concern. We're only here to figure out what happened to Ciri, and well, like I said, do a nice little bit of flirting. We give Yennefer a nice little recap of what we've been doing in Velen and Novigrad, and go speak to Krakon Crate, who is actually an old friend of Geralt's from the books. We've been invited to some sort of dinner or ball, and where they're going to try and figure out who the next ruler will be, and we arrive just in time to try and ignore every single person that's trying to talk to us. However, that doesn't mean that we don't have some time to get into a fistfight with Madman Lugus. However, I did forget I can't fight back, so I just have to sit there and take a pummeling. He speaks down to us as we sit on the ground trying to catch our breath, which is the perfect cover for us to activate our secret plan. We are coming in here to steal something from one of our old friends. And Karma must be catching up with us because as we're trying to do that, we begin to hallucinate and get attacked by a room filled with wild animals. I'm not joking, the current plan is to come into this secret underground lair, steal some important mask that's going to help us find Ciri, but in the meantime we end up breathing in toxic fumes and hallucinating that we're fighting a group of animals. But, well, Geralt doesn't know that quite yet. We have to be woken up later because for some reason we're the only one that seemed to breathe in the air in that room. We stick a cup into the random hand of a statue, and find the Mask of Uroboros or Uroboros. Some sort of special mask that lets you see past events. But it's not a simple case as picking it up, as we have to fight a massive earth elemental in the meantime. Luckily for us, we're able to use our new shockwave and Ard sweep that does massive damage, and escape with enough time to head back to the dinner, well, before we have a little bit of, well, I mean, it's not like a bunch of people just noticed we went missing from a dinner and that our daughter is currently missing. No, we definitely had time to pop back to the hut for a little bit of rambunctious behaviour. Like for us, Krakon Crate didn't seem to notice and he sent us straight up to the druid's camp, where a massive magical explosion happened which we believe has some sort of relation to Ciri. Heading down into the exploded forest, we find that there is, well, pretty much nothing but devastation, and it's filled with a bunch of different animals. The mask that we were able to collect from, well, the druids has got the special ability to allow us to watch whatever sort of magical previous past event happened, giving us our first actual genuine look at what's been going on with Ciri and this magic elf she's been with. From what we can see, she pretty much got blasted into a teleporter and sent to somewhere that we're unsure about. However, that's when Kaer Morhen swoops in and lets us know that there was another Skellige island that also had a magical event happen. A magical event that somewhat included the Wild Hunt, which we find a dead soldier of here. Heading straight over, and yes, it is indeed true, the Wild Hunt was on this island recently, trying to find something. The only person that was actually there that saw Ciri escape, well, he went over to this garden filled with a werewolf, because he shamed his village by running away from the battle. So we have to make our way into the garden and fight our way through a group of wolves, werewolves, so we can hopefully find some poor boy called Craven. And luckily for us, we do find Craven, but we don't find him alive. So we call upon this sacred power of changing the weather? Changing the lighting? Oh, it's black magic! Oh, I think that's a big no-no. But it's worth it because that big no-no leads us into another Ciri mission. It is confirmed that she was on this island and that she was again followed by the hunt. And it turns out that Scale wasn't a coward, he was actually trying to help Ciri escape the hunt. He somehow survives the battle and gives us one of our biggest clues, the little freak from the Baron's castle. We get told off for destroying this entire garden just so we can find one person, which is, you know, fair enough actually. And while we're here, we might as well finish off the magic werewolf. Now it turns out this werewolf is actually called Morkvarg, and he is one of the most evil, corrupt people from Skellige who was cursed into being a werewolf. And these people, even though their garden is destroyed, they want rid of him. But he has a curse on him that allows him to never die, just to be reborn over and over and over again. Luckily for us, this is not Geralt's first curse, and we're able to figure out pretty quickly that if we feed the werewolf his own flesh, it should hopefully break his immortality. So let's have a look and see if it works. Luckily for us, Morkvarg is extremely open to trying anything because even though he's immortal, he cannot eat and enjoy any food, but still feels hunger. Luckily for us, sticking his own werewolf meat straight into his mouth is able to lift the curse fully, and let him move on to a distant realm. Back to the main story, back to the Baron's castle, and well, the Baron is still missing because, well, we just left him in the bog looking for his wife. But luckily Uma's still here and we're able to take him right over to Emir. Well, our plan wasn't to come here, but well, he called us here anyway. And luckily proof that we have Uma here, that could even be Ciri at this point, is enough for him to let us go and head back to Kaer Morhen, the home of the School of the Wolf Witchers. Luckily over there, there's still a lot of Witchers around to help us try and lift this curse. And there's a plan in set which involves meeting up with some good old friends. Our first mission while getting back to Kaer Morhen is to meet up with Eskel and hunt down some forktails and steal some of their spinal fluid. At this point for us, a forktail is not exactly a tough opponent, so setting him on fire a few times is enough to, well, quickly glitch him into a mountain, which was a bit of a pain. But luckily we were able to get him back into the next attack point and finish him off, getting our spinal fluid. On the way out we meet back up with Eskel, who wants to give us a nice little race back. And well, come on, I'm Geralt. I'm also a real living player. I'm obviously going to win this race because I'm smarter than the AI. Yep, pretty damn easy. Eskel's nowhere to be seen and oh, you son of a bitch. Yeah, maybe smarter than the AI isn't the right sentence to use, as I have to finish this horse race on foot. But they get a good laugh out of it, and we're able to head back into the castle and meet up with another old friend, Lambert. Another School of the Wolf Witcher, whose plan is to take that phylactery that we found from earlier, the weird magic box that Whoreson Junior had, and take it to the Circle of Elements or something. Some sort of plan that Yennefer has to, well, uncurse Uma. I do want to say at this point, with the armour that I've gotten, the perks that I've put on my character and just the level that I'm at, well, using science only is by no means a challenge anymore. I mean, especially when it comes to just taking out quantum enemies. We are more or less able to melt through them. So, I do want to take a moment just to talk about what you guys think of this actual playthrough. Do you guys want to see more Witcher free challenge videos? Do you guys want to see any more Witcher videos in general? Leave a comment down below and let me know, because I'm very interested to hear your guys' opinion and your guys' feedback. It's a huge change of pace from the Fallout content that we've been having for a while, but I was finding myself getting a little bit bored of some of it, and felt that a different game would also bring a nice little bit of, well, revamp to the channel. I also have another Witcher video planned to come out soon, and actually a totally different type of video already recorded. It just needs some editing and some voiceover. But we'll still be getting our, well, hopefully every 2 weeks challenge run videos, and I will start recording my next Fallout one after this, with some extra mods put in because I finally got myself a new PC and have access to the Nexus mods now. So that should be fun. Anyway, with the two Witchers helped out, I've got my forktail spinal fluid, I've got the phylactery nice and charged. The only thing left to do is to make sure Yennefer's got all of her megascopes working and we can start actually helping Uma. However, for this one night we have it off because we're going to start lifting the curse in the morning. So there's only one thing to do, and that's to get me and the boys together and put on some women's clothes because, well, what else do you guys do when you have a night off with your friends? I mean, the first thing I always go to is women's clothes. With ourselves woken up and hangovers thoroughly gone, and well, our men's clothes back on, we then begin lifting the curse from potentially Ciri, but it's actually revealed to be the elven mage, someone called Avallac'h. An elf from the same place where the Wild Hunt come from, but someone who is known to be actually actively fighting against them. He lets us know that Ciri was on Skellige, but he's hidden somewhere called the Isle of Mist, and this little light is going to help us get there. There's only one thing left to do before I go to that Isle of Mist, and that's to upgrade my armour because we've luckily hit the next level for it. For anyone who doesn't know, you can't just upgrade your armour to the top level, you have to make sure you're actually at the correct level to use it. And now that we've hit the level to get the advanced armour, well, it would only make sense to grab it as early as possible so we can always make sure our armour is up to date. This one's pretty simple to grab. There's only one area that actually has a boss guarding it, and it's this part here, and it's only a wyvern, which we've taken out many of them at this point. With the flying bitch finally wiped out, with that wyvern taken out, we are able to grab ourselves the enhanced boots. For anyone who hasn't played The Witcher 3, if you're not using the Witcher armor, well, you're just giving yourself a little bit of a disadvantage, because no matter what your style of play is, you want to be using the Witcher armor that is linked to that one the strongest. And luckily for us, the armor's still somewhat low enough level that we can go to just any sort of crafter and build it up for us. If we got later in the game, we'd have to do the quest to get the master crafted armors and the master crafted blacksmiths, which thankfully we didn't have to do because we really didn't have time to do it. With our armor upgraded and looking nice and shiny, we can head over to the Isle of Mist, which from what we've been told is just a random bit of Skellige right off in the middle of the ocean. It does give us a warning we're entering a crucial part of the story, and we actually end up failing tons of quests because of it, because this point in the story has been pushed along so much that a lot of the initial game is now cut off from us. Just a little tip for anyone who decides to play The Witcher 3 after watching this video, make sure you get your quests done before you push on too far. However, we have now finally landed on the Isle of Mist, which is just covered in a couple of different monsters and, well, a bunch of dwarfs. Some of the most annoying characters in the game. Not dwarves, these specific ones. We have to save 3 of them. The first one we try and save falls to his goddamn death anyway, because he's an idiot. The second one that we find is this guy here. The best way to describe this mission is, well, Dima's memory missions from Far Harbor. It's pain in the ass. He keeps falling over and falling asleep randomly every 5 feet, so you've got to run back and wake up. Like, he's just... And the third goddamn dwarf is dead in the middle of the swamp anyway. So you are looking for 2 dead dwarfs and just Gaspard who falls asleep every 5 minutes. It just... Well, they let us in eventually, but they don't have any good news for us. They do know where Ciri is, but she's in the cabin, not moving. And the worst quest of the entire game leads into one of the best cutscenes and most powerful scenes from the entire series. Geralt, heartbroken that Ciri has passed away, is then enlightened by the spark, which turned out to be her soul. And she wakes up, and they even added in a cutscene, not from any other game. This is a cutscene based on the books, where Geralt first meets Ciri. And I can tell you right now, all the gameplay up until this point, this hour-long part of the video, is all just worth it to build up to this scene, where Geralt is reunited with his daughter. I do apologise for anyone who didn't know this part of the story. It was a bit of a spoiler. Should have probably given a spoiler earlier in the video, but I mean the game is about 10 years old, so I apologise. We were able to have ourselves about a 5-minute conversation before the Wild Hunt turn up and we have to escape using Ciri's power. The objective now is to get all the warm greetings out of the way and start planning for the Wild Hunt to attack Kaer Morhen. All of the people that we decided not to help, well, show up anyway. Yes, there was a point before this where I was supposed to go around and help a bunch of people so they would come and help us here. But to be honest, it actually doesn't matter. This battle goes the same way every time. We put a lot of preparation, a lot of planning into getting the castle ready, and the Wild Hunt attack all the same. Yennefer puts all of her magic into her 2 staffs and puts a massive magic barrier around the castle. They turn me and Lambert invisible, and we go out into the forest attacking the hunt before they can even see us coming. The only thing that we're missing by not helping everyone else is, well, just a couple of cutscenes, so it's not too big of a loss. Our objective right now is to head around and close as many of the teleportation portals as we can, to slow down the hunt as much as possible. However, at this point it is clear to see that the hunt isn't just a group of Red Riders, it is an actual full army. Something that we learn more and more about. From The Witcher 1 and 2, it just felt like they were ghosts, spectres, villains that were chasing us from beyond. But it's in The Witcher 3 that we actually learn that the Wild Hunt is a subsect of the elves from the other world, and an actual army itself. So we're not just battling 6 or 7 other warriors, we are trying to defeat an entire platoon. And to be honest, two witches are actually holding their own pretty damn well, if I do say so myself. With all 3 portals closed up, we then head back for another Ciri mission, which again doesn't count. We are forced to use the sword. And Jesus, what are you doing, Geralt? No! Put that sword away! Use your fire fingers! Stop using the sword, Geralt, you're a mage. Okay, maybe use the sword. Imrith's turned up, one of the huge generals of the Wild Hunt. And we end up having to fall back right behind all the walls. It's here that if we had helped a bunch of the people from the story, that we would get some different cutscenes and some just different support in different parts of this mission made easier. But luckily for us, with the level of our mage, it's pretty simple for us anyway. Poor Eskel though, he's still struggling. We then get thrown into another Ciri mission, but this time we actually do have a little bit of magic to use. It's a signal that allows Triss to shoot a fireball right down, so we can actually play this mission properly. We then flip back to Geralt, and our job is again to close up a bunch of portals that are spawning with inside the walls now. And unfortunately we've been taking so long that all the different spells and magic barriers fall, allowing the Wild Hunt to unleash its full army right through the front gate. And with the power of global warming, they're able to freeze pretty much everyone except for Ciri and Vizima. Unfortunately for us though, Vizima and Ciri have been captured, and we finally get to see Eredin's face. Vizima ain't gonna die like no bitch though, and he goes out swinging. And well, with his neck cracked as well. This causes Ciri to go totally nuclear and unleash her elder blood. Again, for anyone who didn't know, the reason that the Wild Hunt want her is because she's filled with elder blood that can potentially stop the White Frost. They want her for a bunch of different things, to use her, to capture her, to kill her. And that little cursed boy who's all grown up Avalok now is the only mage actually using his powers to try and control it. With the Wild Hunt retreating after Ciri went nuclear, we have to take a moment to, well, pray for our fallen. With Vizima gone, that's a huge blow to everyone here. And with that, it's probably a good time to have a look at all of our stats. How are we doing? What are we putting into? As you can see, we've got all of our mutations pretty well leveled up. We've put everything into Ard and Igni, with a little bit in our Gwen shield as well. And with so much pain and destruction, I think it's probably time to take a little bit of levity. Isn't that right, Geralt? Nothing says morning like having a goddamn snowball fight. And that snowball fight gives us the motivation to do some real grieving, and to head straight over to Bald Mountain and kill the general who took out Vizima, Ilmarith. Ciri was informed that Ilmarith will be here on this night with the 3 massive, well, witch ladies that we met at the start of this video. We are let into the mountain. We run into some big fat red bitch who decides to try and use his hands to take out the greatest mage that ever existed. And to be honest, jumping up and slamming his fat ass down is actually pretty effective. Generally one of the harder fights that I've had in this game, his stun ability is actually pretty damn powerful. But with him taken out, we now have to set up our plan. Ciri is going to go after the 3 magic fucking crone ladies. Again, I'm only able to use the sword at this point, so all you need to know is that I was able to take them out no problem. Unfortunately, one of them was able to get away and steal my goddamn jewellery, and somehow transform into a bird and fly away. It is then Geralt's job to take out Ilmarith, the general of the hunt that was able to take out Vizima. And this will be our first true test. This will be a battle that, without all of our weapons at our disposal, may take us a few attempts. I'm actually not even kidding when I was absolutely dumbfounded by how much damage the Ard sign did. I mean, that is a solid 5-10% just in 2 hits. After 4 hits, we've taken out an entire third of his health. He is just standing there, menacingly, while I do back hops like Kobe and slowly blow his ass away. This is why you need to put all of your stats right into Shockwave, because the second that you can use Ard to damage enemies, well, characters like this, just for some reason who are extremely weak to Ard, just cannot handle you. And having the Ard sweep as well, having a massive circle of damage, well, you can just see how the story ends for poor old Ilmarith. Literally cooked from the inside of his own armour. We tell him all about our favourite MC Hammer song, and take a moment to appreciate and enjoy the fruits of our labour, and get right back to work. We do let all these villagers know that we have totally destroyed their entire way of life and also wrecked their massive magic tree that gave them pretty much all of the sustenance and way of living that they needed. But hey, we needed revenge, so to bad luck. And we can see the results of us absolutely playing no side missions and seeing that, well, Radovid has taken completely over Novigrad. We are now in preparation time for the massive battle with the Hunt on our terms. And the things that we've got to do is start getting some actual allies. Not like before, we actually have to this time. The first people we're going for is members of the Lodge. For those who don't know, the Lodge is a massive group of a bunch of witches, which we are okay with helping because, well, we're a witch ourselves. Witch, wizard, it's all the same. So having them on our side will be extremely valuable, and extremely powerful if we want to take out Eredin. We are faced with Bart, who's trying to stop us, but there's no way you could ever fight Bart, is there? And we are faced with our first member of the Lodge, Philip Eilhart, who is, well, a little bit unsure about trusting us, so we have to fight her massive fire elemental. It's here where we face another potential fail for the run. Now, as you can see, I'm doing this battle the exact same way that I fought Ilmarith, using Ard Shockwave and Sweep, and just taking out tons of his health with every shot. However, for some reason every time we do this, the damage that we do is like cut in half. We get to a point, although it might be hard to see on screen, where we start doing less than one bit of damage, which ends us in getting taken out. I was really confused by this. It was almost as if you are unable to take out fire elementals using signs. I tried everything. I used Ard over and over again, I tried to use some Igni, I used the Gwen Shield explosive damage, but no matter what I did, this fire elemental refused to fall down. Every time I hit him with a shockwave, it just seemed to do nothing, even though his entire health bar is gone. So I ended up having to use a Grape Shot Bomb to finish him off. Again, another potential fail in this save, so if you guys think I've failed the run, please let me know down below. But there was no other way for me to progress past the story at this point, so I think using the Grape Shot is, well, it's better than using the sword, I suppose. I suppose in some ways bombs are magic, aren't they? Now, unfortunately, my favourite character here, Dijkstra, is not willing to get out of the way and let us continue on with our quest. So I shove him forcefully. I break his leg. The option said shove him forcefully, but I ended up breaking his goddamn leg. That is not what the prompt said, I'll tell you that. But with Philippa said, we now go off to help Ciri. Now Ciri wants to go around and get, well, a little bit of revenge, and thank the people who helped her out. Our first bit of revenge takes us back to, well, we killed him, but it's not him. It turns out it's Dudu. Dudu is now pretending to be Whoreson Junior. The next location we head to is this little pub, where we want to thank the bar lady for helping out Ciri, but for some reason there's thugs in there causing a ruckus, so we set them all on fire. And the next people we want to help is this group of troubadours who for some reason are having problems with horses, so we gotta go set a random poor innocent man on fire who wasn't doing anything to anyone, and steal them, well, a massive group of horses. They only needed 2, but, well, we decided to release all of them, because we're just a cool guy. With all the Ciri's loose ends tied up, we then gotta head back over to Yennefer and start helping another witch of the lodge get freed. But it turns out that this one is trapped in the Oxenfurt prison, and the only way for us to get into the Oxenfurt prison is to start diving around the sewer. Not too much problems down here, just a couple of drowners, a couple of grave hags, a couple of water hags down here just giving us a bit of an issue, but not too much for our fire fingers to handle. After they're taken out, we then start setting fire to every single witch hunter that we can find, and there's by no means an innocent witch hunter. And once they're taken out, we can then finally find the witch that we've been looking for. But we need to grab the key from the warden, which always sets me up to one of my most favourite missions, jumping into this courtyard with about 20 Redanian soldiers and just, well, setting fire to every single one in one big blast. When I usually come in here I'm using a whirl sword, but you can have just as much fun using your Igni. There's just something about grouped up enemies which is just so satisfying in terms of gameplay. And with them all taken out, it only leaves me with the warden. And yeah, we're not speeding up this gameplay, we are going to enjoy every second of this. The prison warden is, well, this is just as much as he deserves, based on at least the reports you hear from out of this prison. We get the key and we steal all of his Gwent cards because we're just that fucking radical. And we allow Yennefer to get in and save her friend. We then give Ciri a nice little pep talk as she goes in to speak to all the members of the lodge because they also want to use her for, I don't know, nefarious reasons. But luckily she's able to stand up for herself and, well, just as concerned parents do, we do try and eavesdrop a bit. With everyone in this world helped, and yes I did say this world, we are now going to go to another world, as Avallac'h has came up with a cunning plan to show the proof to the other members of the Wild Hunt who don't ride with Eredin, that Eredin indeed killed the previous king of the NL, the elves. That will involve Geralt and Avallac'h teleporting and popping over to a bunch of different universes and different spheres, in the hopes that they can eventually land back at the world of the elves. This has always been one of my most favourite missions in the whole game, because it actually gives you the first opportunity to look at what other universes could be like. And God, I just hope that Witcher 4 has something similar to this. Some other universes that have other creatures, other alive creatures, universes with towns and systems and people that we could talk to and have missions in and do some other quests with. Because even this small little taste just floating and swimming through different abandoned and destroyed universes, to me was one of the most memorable missions in the entire game. We then come back to our old foe, global warming. Literally, this world has been taken up by the White Frost, and we have to be very careful traversing it as it's too cold for us just to walk out of anywhere. We run into more Hounds of the Wild Hunt, which actually I believe, based on the story, that they come from this world. I'm not quite sure, but hey ho, it don't matter. As we've said 100 times, my fingers have spicy sausages on the end, so global warming ain't got nothing on me. With all of the snow defeated, I enter into the lighthouse and learn a little bit more about the story of Ciri and Geralt and all that good stuff that I won't reveal here. You guys can do your own research into it, believe me, you should. It's definitely worth your time, it's a fantastic story. Entering this final portal though, we finally reached the land of the NL, and Viceroy Ganils, or whatever his name was. This guy's pretty much the second most powerful elf behind Eredin, and a massive lover of the previous king who died mysteriously. He actually tried trying to drink a sex potion to have sex with Ciri, but again, we're not getting into that right now, research it yourself. But Avallac'h is able to show some proof through dreaming that it was actually Eredin himself that poisoned the king, so Eredin himself could become king of all the elves. This definitely pisses off the Viceroy, and he promises he will send no support to Eredin if he calls. With that, it's good to also take another moment to go through our stats. This is how they've changed so far, if any of you were curious. And it's another point at level 26 to go and upgrade our armor one more time. Should be simple as always, just go and pick them all up and you motherfucker, I look like Bart Simpson. With that little sliding out of the way, no, we are here to pick up all of the superior armor sets. I mean, I'm not sure if we really need to at this point. You can see here battling this massive Cyclops that we are by no means struggling to deal damage or, well, even take hits. But like I said before, it's always good to make sure that we are fully upgraded, just because, well, the end game can get a little bit more, well, tougher opponents throughout. So it's good to make sure we're leveled up now instead of having to do it later. We come to one of my most favouritely named places, the Giant Toes, and just set a bunch of pirates who were just minding their own business on fire. Like, a lot of pirates. There's like 20 of them down here, and they did not ask for any of this. They never asked to fight Geralt. Geralt just turned up and started setting people ablaze. But they were guarding all the diagrams for the superior Griffin armor, so they had to go. I grabbed the last piece of the armor, the last sword diagram, and make sure there's no witnesses left behind who saw me do that, especially this bear. I know this bear's going to talk. He's got snitch all written on his face. Like we've seen before, we head right over, and to be honest, this one cost a lot more money. I actually had to end up selling a lot of the ingredients I had to make sure I could afford this full armor set. With the full set, the only last thing to do is to grab our two swords, the superior steel sword and the superior silver sword. And well, let's just take a moment and bang! We're not in green no more, bitches, we're wearing gold. We got a Griffin on our shoulder, cased in goddamn gold. I don't think we've ever looked as good. Sorry, back to the main story. We're now here in Skellige. We're here looking for a sunstone that will help us summon Eredin to a battle of our choice. However, we've just walked into some Skellige politics, where they've decided that they're not going to kneel to Nilfgaard and, well, just fully go to war with them. This is the first time I've ever seen this cutscene, because you only get this cutscene if you decided not to help anyone in Skellige with any of their quests. So you guys are seeing this for the first time, well, so was I. Which again I thought was quite interesting because I have a lot of hours in this game. The druid that we robbed earlier is very forthcoming with information on where the sunstone is and sends us over to some pearl divers who might have some information on some sort of elven cave that may hold it. Again, this is the first time I've done this quest as well. I usually pick the other people. There's like a guy who's hunting a white whale. But I decided to do this one since I'd never done it before, and I'll tell you right now, the white whale one's much more interesting. We then decide to take a nice little side quest off to the side and start snooping on Avallac'h and his secret little dungeon that he has. I ain't done many side quests in this game, but my god, it's definitely worth going off to start snooping on that weird elf dude. It turns out he's got some weird mistress trapped in a cave who is extremely insulting to Ciri. And you might think, hey, that's pretty bad of you guys for going in there snooping on his stuff. Well, you know what makes it worse? The fact that we went in there and just started destroying his entire laboratory. Again, let's not forget, they didn't come to us and insult us. We went to their house, broke in, and then they insulted us. Ciri is feeling so emotional at this point, she wanted to go and find a guy that helped her out. Unfortunately, the people of Skellige were not so nice to him because they thought he was a coward. And Ciri decides just to punch them all in the face. Our next quest is then heading over to meet with Nilfgaard and the Emperor Mir so we can get another member of the Lodge. If you guys are thinking right now that the story is jumping randomly around, well, you would be goddamn correct. Because, well, you can ask any big fan of the Witcher series, the Witcher 3, well, Act 3 is not the best part of the game. CDR Projekt Red, well, they kind of started running out of time, and although the first two acts of the game are brilliant, the third act is very much rushed, so yeah, if it's confusing to use, believe me, it's also confusing if you're playing it. Especially if you're doing the side quests, because some of them really, they don't get the ending they deserve either. Anyway, back to the gameplay that we do have. We entered the Elven Cave, and we eventually do find a sunstone after solving a pretty simple puzzle. The witches of the lodge are still playing funny buggers with us, which is the main reason they all got in trouble, but we're able to finally get prepared for our battle. The plan is to summon Eredin straight in front of us, trap him into a small area. Skellige and Nilfgaard have agreed to help us battle the Wild Hunt while we're here. So instead of us battling an army by ourselves, we actually have two armies of our own helping us out. As soon as the Wild Hunt is summoned, we immediately change right back into Ciri, which makes it, yeah, again, pretty simple. We just smash your sword until whatever's in front of you dies. And with the Ciri part ended, we can then jump right back to Geralt, where we have to fight the guy who keeps summoning all the different goddamn global warmings on us. Luckily for us though, this guy Calanfear has the same weakness Ilmriv has. They simply cannot handle the Ard sign. No matter how much damage they're doing, if you get close enough and start stunning them in Ard, their health starts depleting quicker than a bag of Cheetos, well, after some late night rambunctiousness. Geralt forgets that he's a mage for another second and uses his sword to stab him, but we're quickly reminded that we're magic and get teleported to the goddamn bottom of the ocean. Luckily for us, we are an Olympic fucking level swimmer, and we're able to swim right through all the debris and get ourselves right back up to where all the whole goddamn bit of action's going on. In the middle of all this chaos though, we do find Krakon Crate has found Eredin and is fighting him one-on-one. Unfortunately though, Krakon Crate had an axe and did not have the special power of Ard. Eredin is then faced with Geralt, the wizard, not the Witcher. And here we go, the final battle of the game, the final boss, the big kahuna, the rock. Let's see just how... Oh, he's just like all the other guys in the Wild Hunt. He cannot handle my Ard. My long Ard punch, he cannot handle it. He can't handle it so much, he starts teleporting me around the goddamn island. And even with that, he cannot handle my Ard. Now you guys might be watching this right now and thinking, wow, this final boss is pretty easy. The Brickmaker's destroying him pretty fast. If you've put anything into your whirl ability and the swords, you can defeat Eredin a lot quicker than this. Like I said, the final act of this game was rushed. So much so that the build up from the first game where you meet Eredin as a ghost all the way up until this point, I mean, I even start sinking a few beers so I can beat him drunk. That is how simple this final bit is. I decided to go with the tried and tested Igni to finish him off. And with myself stumbling through with my long Ard fist, we finally defeat Eredin, the king of the Wild Hunt. And even though Geralt's been using his sword, we mostly used our signs. Except when we fought the Baron and we had to fight that one fire elemental. That's the only 2 times we didn't do it. But to be honest with you guys, this is more or less the end of the game. The only thing that's left now is a couple of more or less just story based stuff. I mean, I know I get destroyed and blown off a horse, but realistically here we're just ending the story. We find Avallac'h, wish Ciri good luck with her mission, her plan. I won't reveal too much. She gives us a smile. She remembers all the good things from the game, all the nice things that Geralt did for her, all the happy times that they had, and actually just goes off and fights the big old global warming by herself. We let her biological father know that she perished. We head back to White Orchard to buy a sword, and we give that sword to none other than Ciri herself. She faked her death so people would stop looking for her elder blood and to get away from her father. Ending the game and answering the question that yes, you can indeed beat the Witcher 3 while only using signs. Wow, that was a long video. That was a real long video, and a lot of it just felt like I was just cutting together the different story cutscenes. I mean, it was as I was editing it, I did start to realize there's not a lot of gameplay in here that's me using signs. It's just the actual story of the game itself. Which makes me think maybe Witcher videos are better played if, I don't know, maybe if it's more character based and maybe not combat based, because at the end of it the combat is somewhat secondary to the actual overarching story itself. If you guys have any ideas for Witcher 3 challenge run ideas, please leave them down below in the comments and leave a like. I'm thinking maybe, can you beat The Witcher 3 if you're a total idiot, maybe a complete moron, I only pick the wrong stupid things to do? I thought about maybe doing the entire Witcher 3 game drunk, but I think that would be pretty difficult to watch, and just in terms of visually. But in terms of our next challenge run video, I think it will definitely be another Fallout video. I think it's time to get back to Fallout. Although I did have a lot of fun playing this game, and I do have another Witcher video ready to come out soon enough, I think the challenge run genre is just a little bit more suited to Fallout. The Fallout series. Maybe I'll find a better way and a different way to be able to play through the Witcher games as challenges. But yeah, I think the next challenge run will definitely be a Fallout video. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it anyway. I know it came out a little bit later than expected. I did have family visiting over the summer, so I didn't have as much time to be editing and doing the voiceover for it. But it got here eventually, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye bye.